Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Give it a couple minutes for people to get signed in here. We're going to record this as well so we can post it out on our YouTube channel. Hope everybody's having a good Tuesday. Thanks, Cynthia. I always have to say the day out loud to remind myself what day it actually is. So, yes, I did I think the all the cams and audio and everything are muted, but you should have chat, and I think there's a Q and A if I remember correctly. So as we go through, you can throw things in the chat or the Q&A. I'll try and grab questions as we go through. So, um, okay. Okay, well, let's get started. Like I said, we are going to record this, so if you're joining, you haven't missed anything yet. If you join a little bit later, you will be able to get this on our YouTube channel. So thanks everybody for joining us for the 2026-02 Service Pack webinar. So this is going to be a pretty long webinar in this case. It's actually one of our largest releases that I've been a part of. So we went pretty deep into a lot of features. There were a lot of small things that add up into big features. So there's a bunch to talk about. We'll try and get through as much of it as we can. It may stretch a little bit longer. We'll see, especially with questions and things like that. If I can get to those, if you need to drop, no worries. Like I said, we're going to be recording this anyway. So, um, okay, so. What we're going to cover. So we're going to see a bunch of new features, dashboards, major gift events, dashboards. We've got a whole host of dashboard apps, some new features with dashboards and BioTab apps. We'll cover a bunch of those. We're also going to cover some of the kind of smarter enhancements. So we're defaulting everybody to BioTabs. We've got some installers that we've put in place, kind of like the Executive Plus and um, style sheet installers and dashboard installers that we've put in. We've streamlined a couple of processes like perpetual pledge rollovers, and also we've got this neat data integrity tool for postal codes and address standards. We'll talk about that. Overall, we did a major refresh on the way Andar looks, so we'll cover a couple of those pieces. Then we'll go over some of the kind of behind the scenes, like passwords and a couple of security enhancements, and we made an enhancement to how the guide star eligibility information reports back. So we'll take a look at some of those. So um, before we get into everything, if you haven't met me, I think almost everybody has at this point. If you're brand new to your United Way, my name's Nate Shuckers. I'm the product manager with Andar Software. I get to take all of the wonderful feedback from what you guys have to offer, my own experience from when I was working at United Ways, along with everybody on staff. I get to take all of that feedback and try and communicate that out to our developers who do all of the real work. So I wouldn't be doing justice here if I didn't pause for a minute and just thank everybody, thank all of you guys for your feedback, but also thank all of our developers and the whole development team. So Avram, David, Isaac, Jesse, Ricky, Sergey, Steven, and then Christian and Cheryl on the leadership side. So thank you all for everything. It's been an awesome service pack. This was a really cool release, and I hope all of you guys enjoy the features and enhancements that we've added as well. Okay, so oh, let's get into a. I'm not going to bury the lead here. We did a pretty big refresh on how Andar looks. So If this is what you've experienced for years, I know that just from going to conferences, I know that a lot of folks haven't been using biotabs and dashboards. So if you're not seeing the colorful pictures and all the little boxes and everything like that, that's a separate story. Email me, we can talk. But if you are used to seeing something like this, this is what Andars, for the most part, looked like for a lot of people for many, many years. So we made a very specific push for a lot of visual enhancements in the new Andar. I'm calling it the new Andar. It's really just a skin over the old Andar, but it is the new Andar at this point. So what we started to do was make a lot of visual changes, and I'll just pull my slider a little bit at a time here so you get to see. So the main menu we've redesigned. We've made everything a little bit lighter. Notice all the new icons on the left-hand side as opposed to the folders. So if you've been using the icons from prior years, a lot of those icons were duplicated and kind of didn't make a whole lot of sense to necessarily what the menu item was itself. It was just an icon. We've tried to be a little bit smarter for visual purposes, visual cues. So we tried to match up each one of the main menu items with an actual icon that's kind of clean, light, and modern. It also means a little something, so it's easier to maybe remember where some of those menu items live. So lots of icon clean up there. Even just here, you'll notice if I scroll back, the fonts are a little bit different. So we put in a brand new, more modern font. We increased a lot of the padding, so you're going to notice a little bit more space between the menu items just to make it a little bit more readable and easier to see. As we go across, this is the modern biotab and dashboard theme. That's not new, but we're highlighting it here. It's a reminder. It is definitely a different visual than what you might be used to seeing. So if you're not using that modern biotab and dashboard theme, that's an easy win. That's a system preference setting that you can go in and change. All of our new biotabs and dashboards, I think, look best when they're in this format or in this style. So I'm a big fan of that modern theme. So if you're not using that, that's not new to this service pack, but it's been around for a little while. We've also tried to make a lot of our changes that might not be as noticeable reflect a little more modern styling. So even something as simple as over on the left-hand side, when we get to the scroll bars and the little dividing lines, if you notice there's a double line there that makes it kind of look like it's an embossed panel. We're just trying to lighten that up and make it look a little bit cleaner and fresher. So lots and lots of little visual changes that we're going to see throughout. I'll probably point out a few more as we go along. One of the ones that it sounds silly, but coming from somebody who used to train a lot of Andar, one of the things that I always had the hardest time with, if you notice in the top right corner, right where the dividing line is, that little panel with 4 buttons, that was to show all of the apps for the dashboards and biotabs. So if you wanted to change settings on the biotabs and dashboards, you had to hit that little box with the 4 panels in the top right corner next to the printer. I had the hardest time trying to describe what that is. So we went through and we're going through and looking at all of the icons and trying to make some icons that match what the function is a little bit better. So that little 4 panel box now is just a little eye. So when we click on that eye, that's when it turns on all the settings. So we're trying to make some of those polished changes that makes it a little bit easier to understand what you're doing and all of that kind of stuff. Similarly, if we jump over and look at a biotab, so this is, if you're not using biotabs, this is an easy win. Use biotabs, but we've also made a couple of changes here. So this is what it used to look like. This is what it looks like now. The big thing that I want to point out is notice on the far left-hand side, we have given back a whole bunch of space. So it used to have every single biotab listed on the left-hand side. The idea here is that there's a lot of empty, wasted space here. And if you're working on a laptop screen or something like that, we wanted to give you a little bit of space back. So we put that into a little drop-down menu so you can grab all of your biotabs and the main biotab, the one with all of the contact info. You can grab that in this little drop-down. We'll see that live in action here in a second. But again, the modern biotab theme kind of cleans this all up and makes it look a little nicer. We've also installed a default biotab by default. We'll take a look at that when I'm actually in Andar here. And then there are going to be a couple of things on actual screens within Andar. So this is the communication log screen. And I thought this was a really good example of trying to clean up some of it and make it look a little less overwhelming. We did a couple of things here. One, you're going to notice the font is different, right? So bigger font, a little bit easier to read, a little less dense. Anybody who's getting a little bit older, hopefully this gives you a little bit more padding. I'm including myself in this. I appreciate a little bit more padding on the text there. The other thing that we did is there are a couple of screens that have these big header sections that again are just taking up a ton of space. Those are really, really useful filters. But what we did is we put it into a little expanding section here. So it's not taking up most of your screen. Again, if you're on a laptop, you might only see 75% of your screen might be this filter. So we put it into a little expanding section. So it gives you a little bit more screen real estate to work with. So lots of visual improvements, right down to even these little highlights on the tabs. So the highlights on the tabs were a little bit harder to see. So we've made those a little bit more visual just so you can see where you are. So lots and lots of little changes that are going to add up, hopefully, to a new feeling for a new Andar. All right, so let's jump into Andar. I always, when I do these webinars, I create myself a dashboard for all of the features so I don't forget what to go through. I just want to point out this isn't a dashboard that we've released to the public. It's really just notes for myself with example apps so I can go through without forgetting anything. So for anybody who's wondering, this isn't a dashboard that we're releasing. It's literally just some notes for myself. So. Okay, so we got through the majority of this section here. One thing I didn't point out is we put a new little profile menu up in the right-hand corner here. So there's going to be a little picture. If you're using the picture notes in Andar already for maybe your Tocqueville donors, or you can put them on yourselves, whatever, that will be reflected up in the right-hand corner. If you don't have a picture on your account or the account that you're looking up or whatever, it's going to show the initials. So I added my picture. That's why it's showing up here. Otherwise, it's just going to show the first initial and last initial of the account. So if you click on it, you get a little bit bigger version of the picture, your name. This is actually your Andar username, and then some menu items. So I can shortcut to my own profile if I wanted to. So if I just click that, it opens up my profile. So a little shortcut to my own profile with my bio tab. Again, here's that drop down instead of the tabs on the left-hand side. Here's the drop down of all the bio tabs that I can access. It did jump directly to this default individual bio tab. So we have made this bio tab as a default for everybody who doesn't already have one set. So if you've got your own favorite bio tabs that you've set and you're happy with them, that's great. It doesn't affect that. But if you don't have a bio tab set up as a default bio tab, this is going to show up automatically for you. The reason for that is a lot of times when I'd go to a conference, I would ask, "Is this what you normally see when you open up an individual account?" They say yes, and okay, that's fine, but would this be better? And everybody said yes. So the idea is let's just set this as a default. You can customize this bio tab if you'd like. You can make copies of it. You can make your own and set those as defaults. That's perfectly fine. But we're just going to start everybody who doesn't have a bio tab. We're going to start them out here. So if you've got new users, if you are a new customer, if you're not using bio tabs, when you install the 2602 service pack, this is going to be the default that pops open whenever you get this. So got a little pencil next to it where you can update the bio tab. All of those options that you used to have on the bio tab and dashboard maintenance screen, those are all going to be either in the little pencil or the little plus button here. So we haven't lost any functionality. We've just moved it around. So you can update the bio tab. You can set this one as a default. You can close other tabs. You can sort the ones down below alphabetically. If you have a bunch of bio tabs that you bounce back and forth from, you can still drag these around if you wanted to. So if the default is at the top, that's the first one, and the profile, I get into this data entry one a whole lot, you can move it there. So you can drag these guys around however you want and reorder them just for easy access. And then if you hit the little plus, this is going to be all of the this it's the same functionality as we've always had at the bottom, where you can go and look at all of the biotabs, in this case biotabs, that are out there to download, any ones that you have already in your organization. So this is the same menu that you would see if you click the little plus button at the bottom of the old version. So nothing really changed there. These are all categories that I've set up. I'm a big fan of categories as well. So if you've got a lot of biotabs and dashboards, I highly encourage you to use that category just to group them into folders. Makes it a little bit easier for you, one, to find things. But if you're like me, especially if you're a data person, you're a little OCD about those kinds of things and you like to have everything in their place. So group them in folders with the category on your biotabs and dashboards. Okay, so that's biotabs and dashboards, or that's the biotab, the default biotab. I mentioned the drop-down menu for the biotabs. We've also used that over here in the favorites. So again, if you're used to the old version of Andar, we had tabs that ran across here with all of your favorite menus. This one is again, to save space and make things look cleaner. Since you can only have one favorite menu open at a time, we just put it into a drop down. So if you want to see the recent menu items, which I'm on now, great. If you want to switch over to your ePledge favorite menu, now you have your favorite menu for ePledge or payouts or one for yourself, whatever you've got set up. Just instead of using those tabs that can sometimes, if you've got a bunch of them, can stack and make the screen even smaller, we're trying to consolidate things and make them a little bit cleaner. Let me scan this. Oh, default style sheet. So anybody who has the data policy manager, we're actually going to put in something similar to what I just talked about with biotabs for data policy manager for a default style sheet, just to make it look pretty. Again, you can create your own style sheet or change the style sheet however you want. But we created a default style sheet for the data policy manager. You can choose it, and then in the next service pack, we're actually going to make it the default by default. So that's what I meant here in 2701. We'll make this as a default. But to show you what that is, if you have the data policy manager, we just made it kind of match the styling of the rest of Andar. We used rounded corners. We made it very similar to our modern biotab and dashboard template here, or style sheet down here. So if you're using Data Policy Manager and choose this in your system preferences, there's a setting there to choose all of these biotabs, dashboards, all of that kind of stuff. There's a setting to choose which you use for default. You can choose this and it'll just kind of keep it in format with everything else. So that was, again, just a little bit of a cleanup piece. We just to go back and talk about the what's new. So when you install, of course, you're going to get the what's new cards. We've made a couple small changes here. This will go through a lot of the features that we're going to talk about today. I'm not going to use these. I'm not really going to go through, but we did just make a couple of small changes to the appearance of these. But this will really lay out a lot of the big features that we'll go through in this webinar. Okay, so we talked about the biotab by default. That one's already done. We talked about the biotab and recent menu selector. That one's already done. This one's a fun one. So one of my biggest frustrations when I was a customer, and I hear it a lot when I talk to customers, when you're creating biotabs or modifying biotabs or dashboards, a lot of times you don't know exactly what the app is until you add it. Once you add it, you have to wait for it to load, and then you can kind of see what it is. So the idea here is, let's give you a little bit of a preview on what the actual app is before you even add it. So if I just click the little plus here to add a dashboard app in this case, whenever I choose one of my dashboard apps, there's a quick little description here. It tells you very simply, without going into much detail, what this app is designed to do. So in this case, we've got the Abandoned Pledge app, and it's going to list web users who were not able to complete their ePledge transactions. We've got two buttons over here. One is going to pop open a little window. That window is going to have some information, screenshot typically of what the app looks like, and then a little bit more detail with some configuration options. So as we add new biotab and dashboard apps, we'll be putting out some more of this in-app documentation so that everybody knows what these apps are for, what they do. We'll be revising this as time goes along as well. But it's a way to get a little bit more information without necessarily getting all the details. If you do need all the details, there's a little link out button here. And if you click on that, it's going to open up the support center, which I've got some weird cache issues, I think, happening with my environment or my computer. But it'll take you to the support center, and you can log in, and it'll actually link you directly to the help article from our support center specifically for that. So if you need just a quick glance at what the app does, you can click on the little I button. If you want to see the full documentation, that'll open up the very specific web page for that app. So we've got that listed on almost all of our apps. I think there are a couple of new ones that might have escaped my initial push here. So you might see a button that is disabled on one or two of these currently. But as time goes along, we're going to find those and create some new articles and new documentation for it. So. Okay, that's the app descriptions. This default email template. So not really much to do. I just wanted to let people know. We have a couple of default email templates that got used that got a little bit of polish on them as well, namely the ones that say hack attempts. So you'll see up here, I've got a list of all of the email templates. This is one that the subject of the email, it still says hack attempt in the description. That's fine. That's for internal purposes. The whole point of this was the subject and some of the text were it was a little bit alarming to people who would receive these. So the idea here is this there's not really anything like that you have to be worried about. This is literally an email that gets triggered when something was prevented from happening. So we went through and revised a lot of the text on this just to say, hey, this is a notification that informed you that an online user with web account number, whatever, attempt to delete an activity using key number. No further actions required. This is just a notification. So it's really just toning it down like, hey, Andar security stopped what it was supposed to stop. We're just letting you know that something was stopped. So we tried to remove some of that like panicky technical jargon out of a lot of our email templates. We tried to soften some of the language, make it a little bit more consistent, put in a little bit more detail where we had it. So we did a bit of a revision on a lot of our default email templates just to tone down the language and make sure it made sense. The next one's a small one, but it's going to add up to something else. So on an event occurrence, so if I bring up an event occurrence for a minute, go into my event, and we're going to open up an event occurrence. So we've always had this location field. That was typically where you put in where the actual event occurrence was happening. So in this case, maybe it was a boardroom or a United Way office or something like that. You would put in the location, and that would get thrown into the ICS file if you're using iAttend and emails and all of that kind of stuff. That was fine, but we actually added this address field. There's a reason for it. We've been using the geocoding inside of Andar for a couple of features like maps and things like that. So to be able to use that geocoding, we needed an actual address. So this is completely optional. You don't have to put the address in here. But if you want this to be listed on one of the new apps that I'll show you in a minute, you have to put in the address. So we had to make a spot for it. So it's nothing more than that. It's just a placeholder for your addresses for your event occurrences. And again, we'll see how that shows on a map here in just a minute. So small one, but it allows us to do some pretty neat things with the address fields. I mentioned installers. So we've had the idea of installers for a little while now. We've had the dashboard installer last year or last service pack. We released Executive Plus and Style Sheet installers. Well, now we've got surveys and plans. So I know surveys to me get used a ton. I think one of the neat parts about the United Way network is the willingness for you guys to share stuff. So the idea here is that not only can you share your surveys internally, you could export a survey and send it over to somebody else at another United Way, customize it for their database, and then they have the same survey. Same thing with plans. So not only can you share it with other United Ways or internal staff, you can export and import, you can install them directly. So there's not a whole lot to see here other than we've got an install. So I just opened up the survey form menu item over on the left-hand side, and there's very similar to everything else, an install from Andar button. And when I click that install from Andar button, this interface will look similar if you're used to biotabs and dashboards. Over on the right-hand side, we've got kind of a preview of what this survey looks like. It's got a bunch of in-app documentation. So it gives a description up here of what this survey is what it's for. In red, I made sure to call out, hey, these are just templates. It may not work when you install directly, and that's because maybe you have to customize it for your environment. These are all surveys and plans are kind of all templates for you to customize. So it's giving you an idea. It gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the installation steps, gives you some screenshots of maybe where you need to turn a web option on or off. So we tried to provide a little bit more in-app documentation on these as well. So this one's for a single page reg and pledge if you want to capture some more info on a survey. So a couple of these also have some SQL included in it because they're commonly asked for. So with this one, I think it's asking for maybe a birth date or something like that, and it has some SQL in the survey that will allow you to capture and import your birth dates if you'd like. So um, one for I attend. So this is a really common one for events where you ask about a meal selection and all of that kind of stuff. So we tried to give you some templates, some starting points to start working from, kind of like the bio tabs and dashboards. If we rather than giving you the whole blank canvas and say you can create whatever you want in a survey, if we give you a couple of ideas, a lot of times you can see what's happening with these, maybe modify them and expand them to however you want them to be used. So all of these are just designed as templates to customize and work with on your own. If you like one of these, you just click the install button and it throws it right into your survey library. Same thing with plans. So if we go to plans, there's an install from Andar button over here. Same exact layout, same exact style here. You can read a little bit more about what each one of these plans is. I tried to make sure we had a little bit of a difference in plans. So this one's a workflow with a bunch of different decision trees that you can do with plans. So it's specifically for workplace campaigns. So you schedule a campaign coordinator, you meet with the campaign coordinator, and after that it branches off. Is this a traditional, I need usernames and passwords campaign? Is this a self-registration campaign? Is it a rollover campaign? Or is this company not doing a campaign? So it's got that decision tree and then walks you through all of the assignments there if you'd like. So this one's a much more complex one. The CEO call is a pretty simple one. It's just, you set up a schedule, you schedule your meeting with the CEO or the local leader, you add a communication log, you grab the information for the CEO call when you actually meet with that person. So that happens 7 days later. You meet with the CEO in the next 45 days or so, add a communication log again the following day. So it's trying to walk you through the process of if I assign this to an RD manager who's completing CEO calls, you can assign it to that person. They can then track the status of each one of their CEO calls that they need to set up. Again, you can modify these however you want. You can add all kinds of email templates. Plans have been around for a very, very long time. I 100% recommend use the flowchart designer for this. It's much easier. It matches. It's kind of in line with a lot of the other workflow management tools that I've played around with. So we can help you set these up. But again, if you see one of these and kind of get the idea of what it's doing, the hope is that having an example will help you build your own or customize these however you want. So we put in a bunch of different examples, email drip campaigns of just send an email, wait 7 days, send another email, wait 7 days, send a third email. So you can customize that with the email templates that you want to send out. So again, some description of what it is, and maybe some light info on install. It's probably not going to cover every step. Everybody does things a little bit different, but we tried to put some in-app documentation in here. So hopefully that makes plans and surveys a little bit more accessible and a little bit easier for everybody to use and get an idea for what they can do. Again, our customer care and our professional services teams are always out there if you need help or if you want them to build things for you. But we wanted to give you a starting point for some of this stuff. On the topic of surveys, and I saw a couple questions come in, so I'll do this one and then I'll bounce over and try and knock out a couple questions here. And if I don't get to questions, because again, we've got a lot to talk about, I'll try and go back through and answer questions, and maybe we can make a separate video answering questions. So if I don't get to questions or don't get to your question, we'll try and touch base afterwards. So on the topic of surveys, we did a couple of things here. I'm just going to bounce down lower in my dashboard here. Oh, I think I missed it. There are two survey pieces that we put in place. One is going to be a pretty simple one, and people have asked me about this. So this is actually a survey that's just displayed inside of Andar rather than bouncing out to the web page in Chrome. I just put it right in Andar with a web dashboard app. So we put a slider feature in. So you can say on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like hockey? And then you get a scale of 1 to 10 as you drag this over. So that'll get recorded in the survey. So it's just a more visual way to use surveys. That's completely customizable. You can change the language at the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So you can say most or least or whatever you want. And then this one is on a scale of 1 to 5. So you get to adjust that as well. So that can be 1 through 10, 1 through 20, whatever you want. So that is just a kind of standard slider survey question. Along with that, you might notice that I've highlighted hockey, I've bolded this kind of stuff. So we wanted to make it a little bit easier for everybody to edit the content of their surveys. So if I just open up one of my surveys, let's open up this guy as a question. So this is the standard survey form builder. And you type in what you want here. So this is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much you like hockey. We've put in the little HTML editor. So if I highlight this, I can change the colors here. I can make it underline. I can make it italicized, those kinds of things. So H1's H2, H3 if you want to link out. So rather than having to do like the actual coding, because a lot of times you'd have to put in the HTML code strong to make something bold, and that was tough. So we didn't want to do that. So we gave you a little bit more, since we have the HTML editor, let's start putting it in these different places that people want to customize text. So this will appear on your web page exactly how you see it here. You can always get in and do the HTML if you're that type of person. I'm not. So doing it here is much easier. So that was a neat one. All right, let's see here. Well, I'm going to jump over and again, we'll look at some Q&A. I'm going to apologize in advance if we don't get to comments or Q&A or a lot of the questions here. I really want to get through a lot of these. So Carol, data policy manager. It's a great question. I don't know. I know it's one of the least expensive modules that I have. So if you shoot me an email or if you have contact information for Colin, you can shoot Colin an email. But if you have anybody's contact information, even if you just want to email our support desk, we'll get you over to Colin. Colin's the person to ask about module licensing and all of that kind of stuff. So I will try and put in. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. I can't type and think at the same time. So I'll go back and put in his contact info in as a response. Maggie, can the default style sheet for data policy manager have smaller margins? You can change. Yes, you can call you that. It's not like a normal standard default system default thing where you can't change it. You can copy it. You can modify it however you want. I put in just something to get people started, so you can always modify that one. So, good question. You can modify that one however you would like. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna scroll through some of the comments just to see if there are any questions that snuck through there. Um, Okay, and there's a couple of, oh, thank you, Amy, for linking Colin's email address. So that's in the chat. Okay. And sorry, there are a couple of questions that came in that were probably as I was talking, so I'm not sure what you're referencing. But if you throw those in the Q&A instead of the chat with what you were referencing, I can try and get back to some of those questions. Okay, let's jump back into my list to keep myself on target. Perpetual pledge rollover. Anybody who's ever done perpetual pledges and are, so if you're not familiar with perpetual pledges, some people call those rollover pledges. So if it's somebody who says, I'm going to give you $120 every single year, just count on it, don't ask me, just keep doing it until I tell you to stop. That's a per year thing. That's not like every month charge my credit card $10. This is literally, here's my $120 pledge, leave me alone. Usually happens with payroll donors. If you're using that perpetual pledge function, the old process was you had to export the list of last year's perpetual pledges, change some of the like year information, re-import it, put it into an envelope, and then you could attach that envelope. So it seemed like a bunch of steps that weren't necessary. So what we did is we just added a new job. So if I search for perpetual, there's a new menu item called rollover perpetual pledges. And it's a really simple job. All it does is it lets you go and find, you can either do it by an account warehouse, you can do it by an employer. You find whatever year. So if, my current year is 25. So if I go and find all of their perpetual pledges for Nate's Test Company, it'll go out and find all of the transactions that have that little perpetual pledge flag checked. If you do United Way campaign or like an out of area or endowment campaign, you get to select that. You can do transaction types. And if you include designations, this is literally going to grab every single transaction with all of their designations, copy them from 2024 and put them into an envelope for 2025. You could then attach that web envelope. There's a couple of things you can do. If it's just a pure rollover and they say, yep, we're doing exactly what we did last year, you don't have to attach it. You can just roll over and close the envelope. But this will grab all of those transactions that have the perpetual pledge flag, and it'll copy them over into the new year for you exactly as they were. So no more exporting and importing. It just really cleans up that process if you're used to doing that. So hopefully cut out a couple of steps and all of that manual work that you had to do inside of Excel. So that's perpetual pledge rollover. For those of you using Constant Contact and MailChimp, we've added a birthday sync. So it's in your system preferences. I don't think I'm licensed for the Constant Contact or MailChimp module in this environment, but it's just another option that you can go in and check off, yep, I want to sync the birth dates. It'll grab the month and the day of the birth date from Andar and push it over into Constant Contact. So that way, if you are sending those emails out through Constant Contact and Mailchimp, and you want to do a like a birthday reminder or hey, happy birthday kind of thing out of Constant Contact or Mailchimp, you now have that data available to you. Those are standard fields in Constant Contact and Mailchimp. So since they're standard in both systems, we have an option to allow you to sync those back and forth. Not much to see there, just a field that a checkbox that allows you to sync that data from Andar back to Constant Contact and Mailchimp, and vice versa. So for security, this one's, I won't get too nerdy into it, mostly because I'm not a huge security person. There's smarter people in the world that have figured this out. We have a lot of developers that are a lot smarter than me in this, but we did put in an IP blacklist. The idea behind the IP blacklist, it's a new menu item over under admin, so not everybody will have it. Your and our admins or people with the right permissions will have this. But the idea behind it is if you get hit by a bot and it happens to be coming from the same IP address over and over and over again, there's an automatic job that will detect that because usually they happen really, really quickly. So if there are a bunch of hits, like pledges that are trying to be made, accounts that are trying to be created, all from the same IP address, all within a really short period of time, we're automatically going to flag that IP address and block it. So you'll see in this new list, it's going to say blocked from all traffic indefinitely. So it automatically blocks that IP address, and no more can that IP address hit you. It doesn't solve everything. Hackers find a way around everything. They might just shift their IP address, but if the bot is kind of silly and dumb using the same IP address, it's going to block that. So it's one more layer, it's one more roadblock that we're throwing out there to try and keep bots from hitting your registration pages specifically. So if for whatever reason this was legitimate, you can always open this back up. You can set the status to released. You can block it from online payment. Or if there is an IP address that you want to be whitelisted no matter what, you can also put that into a whitelist. So even if there are a bunch of transactions coming from the same IP address and you want those to go through for whatever reason, it could be a weird setup on the company site. You can allow that to you can allow a whitelist for an IP address. So this will record as much information as it gets. I had to add these manually. There was no way to really fake this. But it'll record the individual account, the organizational account, ID, the role, session ID, all of that technical information. So this will help your IT folks look at more specifically what's happening. So whole point here is that you have a way to whitelist or blacklist, block IP addresses. So blocking happens automatically, and you can always go and release it if you need to. Again, not a huge one here, but it's not a good idea to store a social security number in your database. Maybe 20 years ago, that was something that was a little more common. So we've removed a lot of the fields in Andar, all of the fields in Andar for social security number. So that data should not be managed or maintained anymore. So we actually pulled all of that out so that it's less liability for anybody who potentially would have put that in by accident, had it in there historically. So if you do have the social security number, that's no longer an option. And then last thing on the security, we did revise our minimum password requirements for web permissions. So if I open up my own account, we go to eCommunity, web access, and web user info. Doesn't look like anything's changed here, but if I were to, let's just delete all of this and I start typing something in. So as soon as I hit one character, it's going to lay out, these are the minimum requirements that you have to have for web permissions from here on out. So the user IDs can still be whatever you want. Email addresses are pretty typical and kind of common. So that hasn't changed, but the password requirements, we're forcing password requirements to be much more strict. So it has to be between 8 and 20 characters. It has to at least contain one character here. And then it has to at least contain one uppercase letter. So as I start typing, that drops off. Like I've already hit the 8 characters. When I do a capital letter, it drops that off. And then if I do a special character, it drops that off. So it tells you exactly where you are in that process so that you know those password requirements are met. So trying to boost that password, that security up by enforcing a little bit more strict password requirements on web users. GuideStar. So if you own the GuideStar integration, if you don't know about it, we have a GuideStar integration. It goes through and checks eligibility by matching data that's in your Andar database to the GuideStar database. And that's been working for a little while now. Thank you to all of the folks who have helped us improve that over the past couple of years. One thing that we added this service pack was the ability to give a little bit more detail about why an agency failed their check. So I don't have this environment licensed for GuideStar, but I can show you where it would be. So it's going to be under this GuideStar check. And if you do a GuideStar update, it comes up and it gives you a couple of options to check. And when you hit go, that will go out and query GuideStar or Candid, whatever they're going to be officially named here. It queries their database and runs their EIN through and makes sure that they're still legitimate 501c3 for the the Californian folks. It also runs the California check for you as well. So that was something that we added in a little while back. And if it happens to fail that GuideStar check, Previously, it would just say it failed. It wouldn't give you any more information. So now what we've done is we've added a bunch of fields in this check. If it does fail, it tells you why it checked, why it failed that check. Did it not match the 501c3 designation anymore, or any of those other, I don't remember all of the GuideStar options that it could fail for those. There's some kind of weird technical ones, but we're now returning a lot of that information back in, so you have a better idea of why that agency failed the GuideStar check. It's also something, if you know that they're a legitimate agency, maybe they're not even aware that they're failing the GuideStar check and they just need to update their profile in GuideStar or something like that. Maybe there's a requirement that you can pass along to them. So it's giving you a little bit more information so that you can report back to your donors and potentially your agencies why that particular agency failed the GuideStar check. Last one before we get into some fun stuff, the biotabs and dashboards. So there is a mass delete communications. So I think this came from a customer request, and it made sense. If you've got a whole bunch of communications that you want to delete, there wasn't a really good way to do it. So as a warning, we tried to put red text here. Hey, warning, can't be undone. So this is literally deleting the communication record from the database. But if you've got a lot of testing, my environment has a lot of test communications. If you've got a lot of communications that you need to wipe out and just clean out for whatever reason, maybe you have some old communication methods that you just want to purge. This is a good tool for cleaning up all of that kind of stuff. So again, you can do it by mailing lists or all communications with the criteria selected down below. You can do it in date ranges, communication methods, subject codes, whatever you want. So it is permanent. So again, just a warning. But if you've got a lot of the old communications that need to be purged, this is a really good tool to help you clean some of that data up. All right, I'm going to grab a drink and we will bounce over to some questions, see if anybody has some more questions here. Okay. Thanks, Bonnie. I like the perpetual pledge too. That was one of my jobs when I used to run them, and it was always a pain. So, and I know some folks on our professional services team um, really wanted that. So that was they'd been asked about that a bunch of times. So the perpetual pledge job was one of my, and I know one of our developers' kind of personal pet peeves. So. Okay, biotabs and dashboards. I usually lead with this, but I wanted to save it towards the end because there are a few, there's a ton of new apps. So we'll go through those last, but I kind of wanted to put these at the bottom and highlight some of the other things that maybe don't get as much attention. Biotabs and dashboards, again, if you're not using them, start using them. They are, to me, a lifesaver. They make everything look better. It puts the important data in front of you so you're not overwhelmed. You get to pick and choose what data you want in front of people. So those are really, really important if you're not using biotabs and dashboards. And I'm sorry that I keep saying this every single time, but to me, every time I've gone to a conference, there are enough people that are still not using biotabs and dashboards that I'm going to continue to make a big deal about it. So apologies to all of those that you are, all of you that are doing that. Good job. I appreciate you. So, but we did put in a couple of new biotabs and dashboards. So we'll start with the dashboards first. There's a major giving dashboard, and this is designed for all of the major giving officers. So a lot of these apps are the same apps that we've had before, just with a leadership twist on it. So for example, if I open up some of these like this, find a good one here, these churn apps have been around for a while, but now there's a little checkbox down at the bottom of the app that says select leaders only. So it's only going to show you the information from your leadership donors. You can say, I only want to see my Tocqueville donors. So in this case, show me a 5-year history of all my Tocqueville churn donors. That's what this is set up to do. Again, you could do this with overall campaign information, but if you're tracking your leadership donors separately, this app, just by checking this select leaders only checkbox, converts the app from looking at your entire database, all of your donor database, to one specific little demographic. So your major leadership donors can maybe track their history a little bit easier without having to run reports and all of that kind of stuff. So again, it spits it out into a line chart just like the regular churn app would do. So nothing super special there other than it's just narrowing that down to your leadership donors. Same thing with this single year churn chart. That's something that's existed. It's no different than the old one. Matter of fact, it's just called the single year churn chart. So you might be using this to look at overall campaign churn. But again, we've got this little checkbox that says select leaders only. So it's only going to pull in those leadership donors. So you can see how your leadership churn is for this particular year. I skipped over a couple. I think some of these are new. So this one is a leadership giving progress chart. This is going to show you how your leadership is trending this year compared to prior years. If you've used the campaign progress chart, it's very similar to that. So this is broken down into kind of frequencies. It starts at 1 and goes to how many of our frequencies. I have this set to 12 right now, so essentially monthly. But it's going to show you in 2023, 2024, and 2025, how did your leadership giving stack up? So you can see is leadership up or down from the prior month or from whatever month you're in for the prior years. So you can get a kind of a better handle on the progress of your leadership giving, whether it's going up or down. We do have a leadership goal chart here. So if you are in the habit of setting up goals and projections, which I highly recommend doing if you're not doing that, that's a really easy win for the campaign department. It does take a little bit of work, but it's really good to be able to report back out to board members and things like that to say, we're projected to hit 3 million. Our goal is 3.5 million. Hey, board, help us make up that extra 500,000. So if you're putting in goals and projections, that on your leadership donors, you have a little separate thermometer here to show you that. So if you're setting up a goal for all of your Tocqueville donors, you then can sum up all of those Tocqueville donors. And then as those gifts come in, you can see how close you are to hitting that goal. So just like a normal campaign thermometer, it's just for leadership. This one tracks your average leadership gift over time. Generally, it should stay pretty stable, I would think. But I think the trend still is that leadership donors are going down, but the leadership gift amount is either remaining steady or going up. This chart would help prove that. So it's really looking at your average leadership gift over X number of years. So you can see is that trending up or down. So again, that would have been maybe a hard DMO to run, or a DMO and then an Excel feature or an Excel function to get that information out. So we wanted to provide that directly in Andar. This one's kind of similar. It's really just comparing your leadership giving and non-leadership giving. So this is a stacked bar chart. I don't have great data in my database, but the idea is that it will break down how much is going for leadership and non-leadership. So in this case, 99% of my 2024 campaign total was leadership dollars. How does that compare to last year? Maybe it was only 92%. Or in the current year, I have no leadership giving. It's all non-leaders. So you get to see kind of a history of non-leaders versus leadership, how that's going. So I think the rest of these are pretty self-explanatory and have existed for a little while too. One of these, that was the one. I was going to say one of these we added some functionality to. So this leadership pledge history, this is literally just showing you over the course of the year how many people were at each level: bronze level, silver level, gold, toque. And the nice part about this is if I click on this orange segment to show the 2024 toque donors, it gives me a list of all of my 2024 toque donors. I don't have to data mine that out. I don't have to run any reports. It just shows me all of my toque donors. If I go back and click on one of these other segments, like my gold leaders, it's showing me all of my gold leaders from 2024. So you can drop those into a warehouse. You can pull them out into an Excel file if you wanted to. So try to cut back on some of the reports for simple things like who are my gold leaders for 2024. Okay, so that's the major giving dashboard mostly. The event management, there's a bunch of new apps on this one. This one's kind of fun too. If you're an event manager within Andar, we didn't have a whole lot of kind of fun tools, or at least centralized tools. So this dashboard is set up to broadcast and listen. So this first app is all of the event accounts that exist in your database. And if I go down to one that I know has some occurrences, I click on that, the little green highlight shows up to say, hey, we made some changes to this app. This is showing me all of the occurrences for that particular event. If I go down to one of these occurrences, some more apps light up green. That means they are being broadcast and listened. Now, that location that I showed you earlier, that will broadcast into this little map and show you where in the city or uh, county or wherever you are, town, it'll show you where that actual event is. So it's just a nice visual. There's nothing. I think it's really helpful, especially when you start considering maybe you have 4 or 5 events at the same time. You can start to map these guys on an event. But if nothing else, it's a nice little visual to show you where that event is for your event managers. If I were to choose another one, let's see if I get lucky and get one. I did. So I clicked on another one and it just shows you. So it's broadcasting and listening those different event occurrences down below. The next couple of apps are really all about managing your attendance. So we can see that for this particular occurrence, this is a Stanley Cup watch party that happened June 9th. Here are the people that are still invited. We have 20 of them and we have 30 that are registered. So again, without running any reports, we can see how quickly is this event selling. Do we need to release more tickets? Do we need to send another email out because we have nobody who's registered? So it kind of tracks the progress of your events for you. The one on the right here, this event placement progress. So we added placements as something that users can do on their end. So if you register for an event and I want to say, I'm sitting with a group of 5 people at table 8, you can update your own placements. That was something that we kind of did in partnership with Greater Twin Cities United Way a year or so ago. This helps you manage that. So if you've got a bunch of different placements set up, so I just kind of set it up with VIP 1, 2, and 3, and then some other tables, you can actually see, hey, table, we've got a bunch of available spots. You don't have to try and visualize that or throw it out into Excel or any of that kind of stuff to try and figure out where to place some people. If somebody says, hey, I want to sit at table 9, sorry, it's full. You can see right from this chart, we have no more spots at table 9, but I can offer you table 8. So it's there to help you manage the placements. If you click on any of these bar charts, it should open up the attendance list, and that attendance list will allow you to go in and find that person and assign them. So it's another shortcut. There's an event progress chart that's been around for a while that just shows you how is this event tracking. If it's something that's year over year over year, like your campaign celebrations or things like that, is this event tracking ahead or behind where it was last year? And then we've got another chart here to show how many tickets are being sold over time. So daily sales. So on what is that? May 1st, I sold 6. On June 10th, I sold 15, and on July 14th, I sold 5. But then you can see overall we sold 26. So it just adds those guys up for you. And then we've got an attendance list on this one as well. So it's listening to whatever's being broadcast. So you don't necessarily have to go to this event account, open up the event account, and go into all the different tabs and subtabs to find a lot of that high level information. The idea here is this is one dashboard where you can start clicking around on some of these different events and not have to go into all the tabs and subtabs. So those are the 2 dashboards that we created. We already talked about the bio tab that we created. So there's a bio tab here for individuals, and there is a bio tab created for organizations that are default. They're pretty standard. They're pretty basic. We didn't release any new individual organization bio tabs this service pack other than the default ones, but we did put out a new bio tab for events. So if we go to the installer or however you want to get there, I think we're going to make this as a default next service pack. But it shows a couple of the new event apps. This one's pretty neat. We haven't talked about it yet. It's a countdown timer. So this countdown timer, first off, let me talk about the bio tab. The bio tab is if you want to see the high level details of all of this particular event in one spot, you can do it on the bio tab or the dashboard. Either one works. But if you open up the event account, you can set this to be your default. It shows a bunch of that high level information. all of the event occurrences for this particular event account. This countdown timer. The neat part of this countdown timer is it can be used in a number of different ways. Right now, it's showing a countdown for, I set a specific target date in there. You can use the event itself. So if I would choose this occurrence, it's going to count down until that particular occurrence happens. If you have multiple occurrences, so maybe you've got a calendar of 5 Women United events that are set up as different occurrences, you can say, let's set it to the first one, and then we can advance to the next one. So if you've got 5 different occurrences in the next 3 months, set it to the first one. Once that one has been done and completed, it'll go to the next occurrence and always keep counting down to the next one. So it's just a fun way to kind of keep track of how quickly your events are coming up. So you can set that to events. You could set it to a specific volunteer opportunity. So if your day of caring is set up or a board meeting or any of that kind of stuff, you can set those up to a big volunteer opportunity. You can also put this on an organization account or, well, to do a campaign date. So if you have maybe you want to do a start or an end date for your campaign dates, you can choose the campaign start date, what organization it goes to. You can also, this is showing it here, you can do this for the overall campaign. So if you're using the campaign dates on your campaign accounts and you're counting down until next year's campaign starts or ends, you can put a little countdown timer on there. So lots of ways you can use that. Notice at the top and bottom, we've got a title and a completion text. And if I click that, it just opens up a little HTML editor and you can put whatever text you want in there. That's what ends up showing here. So you can customize that. You can bold it, make different colors, all that kind of stuff. Just kind of make it a little more fun. There's our map again for this bio tab, event bio tab, and then just a quick attendance list for different occurrences. So again, just trying to keep people out of the ugly screens and make something that's a little bit prettier and shows some of that high level detail that you can always customize. Okay, so last but not least, we've got a couple of just random, not random, that's the wrong word. We've got some dashboard apps and one feature that I didn't cover that I want to talk about. So let's hit the bio tab and dashboard apps. Scan this to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, there's a search function in all of our installers. So if you are installing, so if I hit the install from Andar on any of these screens, whether it's bio tabs, dashboards, plans, surveys, anything, there's a search feature up here. And if I just do profile, whoops, helps if I type, right? So if I start typing profile, it just narrows that down. So this list is starting to get pretty long. So if you're looking for something specific, if you're looking for prospecting, you can just start type prospecting and it'll find prospecting. So as these lists grow, that was put in to make that a little bit easier to find. Let's see, we did all of the leadership apps. We covered all those. The survey apps, there are a couple survey apps here. There's a survey ranking response. So if you are familiar with the ranking response report, this is exactly that. It doesn't do anything different than the ranking response report for surveys. It just shows it to you in a dashboard app here. So it's going to grab, these are ranking, it's using the ranking type. So if you put something out there and say, rank these in order of importance, you drag and drop the different items here. So in this case, I've got AI, email marketing tool, whatever. People drag these in particular order. And it was kind of always hard to figure out what that meant. Well, now we've got a way to tell you. This, people scored the highest. It got the most number 1 votes. So it's number 1. This one got the second most, like it's the second lowest total. So it just helps you figure out the ranking piece there and make sense of those ranking responses. So translating a little bit. We put in a couple of apps for surveys as well. This is just, again, a visual on a survey. So if you want to do a calculation on survey responses, how many hockey games do you watch per year? This app will allow you to do that. You choose your survey. You choose the survey questions that have a number in them. And then down here, you can say, I want to see the sum, the minimum, the maximum, the average. I have it set to average just to see what people, what's the average hockey games that they go to, that kind of stuff. So again, we couldn't really do that in without data mining and going to Excel. So we're trying to make using surveys a little bit easier. Um, I'm just going to start going through my dashboard here for some of these dashboard apps that are new. We came up with an organization churn chart. This one's pretty cool because it allows you to specify whatever organizations you want. You can add them in here, and that will allow you to compare the churn for those particular organizations. So I've got 5 listed here. And you can see that the increased donors is really high in longitude photography and Nate's Test Company, and the lapsed donors, let's see, flat donors, that's a good one. That one's really high in Canadian bearings. So you can quickly and easily see from a high level who are the companies that we might need to work on increasing their donors, or what company has done really well with increasing their donors over the prior year. So just high level stats. We added a drill down feature. So if I click on, this is the pledge receivables chart. So if I click on one of these little segments here, I clicked on this, it tells me the pledges and the payments on that particular day. If I go to someplace where there are pledges and payments in, it'll show me both of those. So it just shows the pledges and the payments that make up this 4450. So that was a new addition to an old app. We added a web page visit chart. So this one works with, if you're using personalized URLs, you can add a personalized URL. So if I click on my add a Pearl button, any of your pearls that you have set up, you can throw into this list. So I've got my Pearl for my login page, for my self-registration, employee self-registration, all that kind of stuff. I added a bunch of pages in there, and now I can see which pages are getting hit. So in this case, I know my single page reg and pledge page got hit a ton of times. My self-registration got hit the second most. This shopping cart isn't getting used. So this works with any Pearl that you set up. It also works with standard Andar URLs. So there's a little bit of a trick to entering that information in. I think we put it in some documentation to help you out with that. So just helps you get a grasp on what and our web pages are getting what kind of traffic. Talked about all the event stuff. We put in a couple of data cards for leadership and event stuff. So it shows total revenue for events, how many tickets are remaining. So again, high level stats. We've got a couple of CB apps that help you broadcast and listen. We talked about the slider. And then this is the last feature that I want to talk about, and I'll jump over to a couple questions. And for anybody who's still hanging out with me, appreciate your time. I know we're over, but I appreciate you sticking around for some of this stuff. So this is for all of the data people out there. This new address fix list is out there to help you correct and stay on top of some of your data quality. What this does, I've just added it as a dashboard app, but it is a main menu item. So it's the fix address data. Oops. Menu item. And when I open this up, it gives me a bunch of checkboxes. And what this does is it uses postal standards. So it's going to use US and Canadian postal standards to fix any of the addresses that are in your database. So if there's anything that is, you want to change the full street to abbreviations, street, S-T-R-E-E-T to S-T, you can check that off. If you want to grab the full direction abbreviations, so like east to E, ST period to ST, and I know that'll probably be a controversial one. A lot of people like the period at the end, but postal standards say that you shouldn't have the period. You can check off as many of these as you want. And then when you click the submit button, it's going to show you, just like if you're doing merging. If you're familiar with the merge job, we've kind of modeled it after the merge job. It's going to show you a list of all of the things that could potentially change. It doesn't change it automatically. We don't want to be that drastic, and because that might be hard to undo. So we're going to show you a list of all the things, and we're going to highlight the differences. So let me get off of that. So for this one, for example, instead of having CR, here, it's going to do CR lowercase r 652. In this case, we've got Pittsburgh in all caps. The fixed city is Pittsburgh in proper caps. Maybe we've got it in lowercase and we need to do proper cap. There's one that's trying to find a direction or a street spelled out. There's an ST. I didn't run this without the period, so it's ignoring that. But it's going to grab that information. It's going to show you what can change. And then you can either update the selected one. So if I say, yep, go ahead and fix this one, you can click the update selected button, or you can click update all. So if there's only 5 or 10 on this list, rather than clicking it 5 times, you just click update all and it'll grab all 5 of those. So it works very, very similarly to how the merging tool works. It's going to show you what will change. It's not going to change anything automatically for you, but then you get the option to change them one by one or update them all. Every single time you run this job, it's going to overwrite this table that we're looking at in the background. So if I just check this checkbox and hit submit, it's going to ignore everything here, resubmit this job, and only show me the ones that have multiple spaces to single spaces. So every time you run this, it's just going to repopulate this table behind, and you can go through this regularly and stay on top of your data quality. So I thought this was a good one. I know staying up on data quality is a hard task for a lot of you and me. When I was at my United Ways, it was always a hard task. So hopefully this makes that a little bit easier. So. All right, let me bounce over to questions really quickly. Yeah, we're just wrapping up, Rosa. We're just wrapping up. It was designed for an hour. Thanks for sticking with me. Okay, I will go through some of these questions, and if we have questions that we can answer, I'll try and answer them after the fact. We have a couple here. So that pretty much brings us to the end. I'm just going to leave it on this screen for now, just because it's hard to get out of presenter mode. So thank you guys. I do want to highlight a couple of things before everybody starts jumping ship. So as always, if you have questions, you can always submit questions to our support center. If you're looking for us to do anything for you, set up a look and feel template, any custom coding or any of that kind of stuff, we've got our professional services. So there's 2 blocks there. And then the last one is just some upcoming stuff that I really want to highlight. There's 2 kind of exciting things coming up. Next week, if you're on the West Coast, if you're coming out to the Western Regional Conference, make sure you stop and say hello. There's going to be a bunch of us there. We've got, I think, 3 or 4 people showing up. So stop by our table. We're also doing a presentation for one of the sessions. So sign up for our presentation. This is a selfless plug for my own session. The nice part is we're going to have Ryan from United Way of San Diego County co-presenting with us. So we're going to get Ryan in there, and we're going to talk about how to turn data into impact by using the data in your database. So it's going to be a really exciting session. So stop, if nothing else, stop and say hi at our table. And then next Thursday, the 26th at 12 Eastern, we're going to have another webinar hosted by Cheryl. It's the future of AI in Andar. So I know that's everybody's talking about AI right now. So we're going to have a webinar showcasing some of the ideas that we've come up with and the future of what AI in Andar could be. So that's next Thursday, the 26th. At 12 Eastern. And I think most folks should have an email in their inboxes about this, but if you don't, let us know. We'll make sure we get an invite out to you. So, all right, well, that is it for me. Thank you guys so much for everything. Again, thanks for hanging out for the last little bit of it here. If you have any questions, as always, just let us know. We'll be in touch. So thanks everybody. We'll talk to you soon.